Hey guys, welcome to The Beat Goes On. Tonight we are sitting down with Dennis. Hey Dennis, welcome to the Secret Lair.
How's it going?
It is going. How was your Friday the 13th?
It wasn't bad. It was kind of uneventful because I had to go to take my kid to a Social Security building downtown. We go there at 8 o'clock and the freeway's wide open. It was like being in, Walking Dead. It's got the whole vibe out there is like this dystopian vibe.
I really wish that my work would have been like that today. That would have been beautiful.
Give it a week.
I work in property management. I had nothing but angry people, screaming, angry, crying people for the first 2 hours of my day, and I went, shit, it's Friday the 13th.
You guys might have plague there.
God, I don't know what
that could be even worse.
We're pretty sure that there's a different kind of drug out there that's being given only to our residents. It's an angry drug. It's not even a fun one.
Where's this?
I work at an apartment complex.
Are you guys renting?
As a matter of fact, we are.
Can I get an application?
I'll talk to you about it after the show.
All right, cool.
So,
not that anything about angry drugs.
It sounds good. So, give me your history. How did you get into music?
I started playing violin in 4th grade. And I kept that up all through high school till 12th grade. I was first chair the entire time. And that's where I learned how to read music. I started playing guitar in 8th grade? Yeah, 8th grade. And that it seemed to come pretty easily to me at first. Probably just because I had experience with a string instrument. And I advanced pretty quick. I was playing in the clubs in Chicago when I was 16 with guys that were, mid-20s. So I'd go to school when I made it, just bleeding booze. It was horrible. I was not, the role model student. But I was pretty good. I could hold my own. And then I went to Berkeley in Boston. Went there for a year, but I was 18. And I obviously knew way more than any adults out there. No, the best jazz school in the world. They couldn't teach me any more than I already knew. So I quit. But I was in school with Al Petrelli. The guys in Dream Theater were a couple years ahead of me.
Nice.
But I got to see you had to do a final project, a performance piece. And there were these little auditoriums. And anybody could go see anybody do their final project. And they were doing theirs. And I just caught it one afternoon. And I was fucking blown away. They didn't have the singer. And they were just an instrumental band. And they weren't called Dream Theater. But they all met at Berkeley.
Right.
And I wanted to just quit and make my guitar into an elegant oriental bird cage or something. It was kind of a humbling experience.
I bet. That's got to be.
But it was also, it kind of lit a fire under my ass, and it just made me, want to be much better than I was. So I've always been kind of relentless about that. And, like I was telling you earlier, it's always been about music with me. I never, the image and all the arrogance and posturing and,
the rock god.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine, a guy I played with in Denver a long time ago said to me, he's like, it's, I'm done when it's not fun anymore. And it's only fun when the band is just airtight. And then, we're doing cover songs. We nailed them. You learn your parts, right? The song's already written. The work's already done. And it's a common theme. Every city I've lived in, I see the same kind of thing. And to this day, you see people fucking up Crazy Train. It's like, come on, man. That kind of drives me. Anyway, I digress.
I have looked at some musicians. One who is an absolute dear friend. So I can poke him and he doesn't get too upset with me. And he doesn't normally do covers. And he was doing, God, I can't even remember the song that he and his band were just messing around with, but he messed it up, and it was another one of those like Crazy Train. How do you not know the words? And he's messing up a song that I, as a country girl, know the words to. And I'm like, dude, how do you call yourself a rock band and not know? And he's like, man, I'm old.
No excuse.
The memory's gone. I'm like, not buying it.
No, that's...
So, what made you choose to start with the violin?
I don't know, it sounded cool. They had all these cats come in there and do like this presentation. Everybody, they were like in the Northwest Indiana Symphony or something. They were pro guys. So they knew how to make a violin, cello, viola. They knew
sound
how to make
actually
them sing.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, but you give them all to a bunch of fourth graders. And I had the same music teacher from fourth grade all the way through 12th grade, Mr. Deal.
Small town, I'm taking it.
And Stone Martin knows him as well. He was his music teacher too. And that man had to have, I don't know how he did it without becoming just a blind knee-walking junkie, because it had to be horrifying.
Oh,
a room full of sick cats being skinned alive.
And, the reason I ask is because my mother played the violin when she was young. And her reason for giving up the violin is because it's such a horrid sound until you learn how to do it right.
Well, I imagine any musical instrument, until you get it, we all have incredibly patient parents and neighbors and siblings and friends even, because it takes a while to get to that point, and it takes a lot of sacrifice and practice.
Right.
It just gets frustrating when I'm all about the music, and I love playing it, whether it's covers, which I've got originals, but I'm just having a hard time finding anybody.
Originals have such a hard time getting out there. It's horrible how...
Well,
and I don't mean to sound insulting to people. I really don't mean to, but I'm sorry. It is horrible how bad people are sheeple when it comes to music.
Well, Empire Desire, they do all originals.
And oh my God.
And Sectus, there's a lot of, in the band I was in, Show Me God, there's a lot of solid talent, and so originals are definitely a viable way to go, and it should be the main way to go, with everything else being secondary.
I'm from Washington, and back home, if you were a cover band, you weren't playing.
No, you had rocks thrown at you.
Yeah, because that's...
Bigfoot would throw rocks at cover bands.
Right, because that's great that you know how to play that person's song, but...
Do it right, man.
What are you doing? Because if you aren't doing your own stuff, then what are you bragging about?
Agreed.
So I came out here, and everybody's cover bands. My first band here that I've started following, Oddity Paradox, is an all-original band. So when they were telling me they have a hard time getting gigs because nobody books originals, I'm like, you're kidding me.
And here's an interesting story. I lived down here 30 years ago. And I promise you, any Friday or Saturday night, all these clubs, there was Hammerheads, Mason Jar, Rare Hair, Library, Desperados, Rockers, Edsell's Attic, Sawmill. These were awesome clubs, and there were nothing but original bands playing.
Right.
You could not get a gig if you got laughed at if you were a cover band. And it was a great scene, but it was very backstabby. There was very cliquish.
Oh,
because these guys, I mean, Phoenix had a sound.
Right.
It really did. I mean, Icon, Kaiser, Surgical Steel. There was a common sound to it. I don't know if it was the vocal harmonies, the guitar tone when they mixed it, but it had a unique sound. And some monster players from back then, like Danny Wexler. Stupid good guitar.
We still have monster players out here.
Oh, yeah. Christian from Sectus, man. That dude is just ridiculously good and the most humble guy I've met down here. I mean, he is incredibly down to earth and cool.
Well, and I have had the pleasure, even before I started doing these podcasts, just as I was coming into this, I've had the pleasure of meeting so many musicians in this community. Yeah. And for the most part, 98%, easily 98% of the musicians in this community are incredible human beings.
Yeah. There's some insanely good players down here. I've had the honor of playing with a lot of them. And I've just kind of, everything just went its own way or whatever. Everybody found their direction. And now I've done the cover thing. I did that, it was fun. And I would do it again if the right thing came along, but I kind of burned myself out. I was in 5 bands simultaneously at one
Jesus.
time. And they were all playing.
How did you keep track? How did you have a life outside of shows and practice?
I didn't.
Yeah.
That's all I did. I would practice, get up at 5, 6 in the morning. I'd practice 10, 12 hours a day, go to band practice, go do shows, videos. I mean...
Your wife must love you, because...
She is so fucking beyond awesome. She's 1,000% behind this, and she puts up with me. I'm a weird... distant, irritable motherfucker, I promise you. And for whatever reason, she sees something else that I just don't see. But no, she supports it, and without her, it's impossible that I could do anything I do. And not that she's not supporting me. I work construction, but still, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very difficult relationship to be in with a musician, especially one who is so dedicated.
I am not even a musician. I am the Uber fan. My son called me that from the get-go when I started into this. Jim Stark has picked up calling me the Uber fan. But yeah, this consumes a lot of my life. Supporting the bands, promoting the bands, doing these... and I, as a single female, the number one thing I get told by men that are thinking they're interested in me is, you don't have time in your life for a relationship. And I'm like, you might be right, because the music's not going anywhere. I am not giving this up.
I've tried giving it up, and I can't not do it. It makes me even more of a miserable, bitter asshole than I am now. And music gets my soul right. It sounds like something you'd see on a fucking Pepsi can or whatever, but
I am...
Or a Hallmark card.
No, because see, I am, and it's been a long time since I've said this, at least a couple of months. I am a firm believer that music heals. I have seen music pull the gun out of people's mouths.
Check this out. It is the only force on this planet that 90,000 people can get together, and they can be from different countries, different political systems, different religious beliefs, different skin color, just completely different political affiliations. Yep. Yet, while that band is playing for 90 minutes or whatever, they are not blowing each other up, stabbing each other, killing each other.
You bet.
That's a powerful force. That's a gift.
Music is, I'm going to say this very confidently, but I may be wrong. But music, in my belief, is the one and only thing that can cross all lines and barriers.
Agreed. It's a powerful gift, man. And a lot of people can learn how to be technically proficient on an instrument and play the right sequence of tones to, convey a song. A lot of people can do that. Very few people can really convey emotion.
Well, I mean, there was a video I found on Facebook, and I reposted it because on one hand it was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen, and on the other hand, simultaneously, it broke my heart. Somebody created a band of robots, and they were playing, the video has them playing AC/DC's Thunderstruck.
I'm sure it sounds
It was
fantastic.
Fucking phenomenal.
But it probably sounds like what I was just saying. A lot of people get to that technical proficiency, but there's no soul to it. It's sterile. It's sterile.
And I looked at that and I went, I have emotion for that song, but those machines are not portraying. The emotion I'm feeling is my memories attached to that song. They have nothing to do with those machines. Versus when I'm at a show, watching my bands up on that stage, those people are giving me their heart for that time period that they are on that stage. And I see it, and I feel it, and I can give it back. That's the difference of people playing versus a machine.
Yeah, I agree. And there's just a lot of that, and that's what people, they seem to miss. There's that level you get there. If you can convey emotion, that's so huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how long have you been playing music professionally?
Since I was 16, so I'm 38 now.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And then some. So, how many bands have you played with in that time? Rough estimate. Because the 80s were a hell of a decade.
Yeah, 80s, I was pretty much, I wasn't whoring around as much as I seem to be lately. I don't know, 20 the entire time. Plus or minus a couple.
What was the biggest band that you played with?
Lot 6, based out of Denver. That's the CD I gave you.
Okay. And how long did you play with them?
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good band. Good band.
What made it a good band?
Everybody paid attention to detail. Everybody did their homework. Nobody fucked off. It was a machine.
So, give me your band history.
As far first band I put together, I think was in 8th grade, and it was called Albatross, I think. And I think I read somewhere that Kiss were going to call themselves that, so I was like, I'll steal that. So that was the first band, and then I don't know, I had a couple other high school bands. And then I was in a band called Exciter in high school, and we won all the talent shows and Battle of the Bands, and we actually started playing clubs when we were way underage.
You could do that back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, the club owner was like, I let you kids do it, but make sure you don't drink. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
At least not where you can see me.
Yeah, we were definitely clandestine about it. But Exciter. And then I found out there was a Canadian band called that. And then I joined a band from the rival town over, which created huge controversy. Oh. That was called Presence. Let me see. Axamillion. Oh, shit. Deceiver.
I'm sorry I'm making you have to think.
Well, it's been a minute. And Denver, Killing Machine, Cage, Lot 6, Danny Masters Band. force it. And down here, 30 years ago, I was in Annie M with Steve and Matt Helmstetter. And Matt, he was in Zigzag Black, and he's in, what band is it? Gladhammer. He's drummer in Gladhammer now. And Steve passed away a couple years ago, which actually ties in because that's what brought me back here. 30 years ago, I was in Annie M with those guys, and then I joined Empire of Desire.
I didn't know you played with Empire of Desire for a while.
Yeah, first build.
Nice.
Yeah. And, it was cool. Great tunes. I wish they would resurrect some of those old songs, man. They were really good. Not that the new ones are good, too, but I'm just kind of partial.
Well, you know.
Yeah. You know.
We all have our favorites.
Some of my first recordings were with those guys. I think, the first one, official one, was with Annie M and then those guys. So then, and then I just kind of got out of music for a while.
What made you take a break?
Rejection, disappointment.
Yeah, because musicians
betrayal, name your negative adjective. And most of those are false. It's just me. It
was the stories that were playing in your head anyway, and that still counts.
Yeah, and I'm really good at embellishing things and, getting all silly with it. So, yeah, it's a horrible tragedy. It's, like war crimes when I look back on it. So, but none of it was really that bad. But in my mind, of course, it was, the end of civilization. And
it's amazing how our minds can do that to us if we're not careful.
I just throw caution to the wind. I really find no need to be careful. Let my mind, it's a bag of cats.
Nice.
It's that, that adult attention deficit.
ADHD?
Yeah. I'm sure it's something like that.
Fair enough.
Because I kind of, my wife says it's clanging. It's like a pinball, clanging. Because I just bounce from thought to thought.
No, I get that because I do that. I will get a thought in my head, and I always have a notebook around me because I'll get a thought in my head and it will snowball. And I have to stop and write it down.
I used to write it on my son's forehead when he was an infant, but I found that that's not cool.
It's not ideal, yeah.
I didn't know until, some authority figure told me that's not cool. And so I stopped that.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I write it in a notebook so I can actually get it out of the way so I can then move on and actually move forward with normal thought process. My dad always called it flapping around the ceiling.
Yeah. Like a moth.
Right? So, give me some more of your band history.
Let me see. I didn't touch on this recent time. Okay, so I came down here. I got here 4 years ago. And I get a call, and I find out that Steve Helmstetter had passed away, and I hadn't seen him in 20 years, but we had played together. And dude was just phenomenal. And he was a brother. He was a good friend, man. And even though we didn't see each other, we were tight. I came down here for that and then reconnected with my wife. So that's a whole other interview, but we don't need to go there. It's a
good thing that you reconnected with her from the sounds of it.
Absolutely, because how many people do you know you run into an ex from 30 years ago? You say, hey, let's get together. And then what do you typically say? No, I have a colostomy or a colonoscopy. Not a colostomy.
Either
a colonoscopy later today, and I'd much rather do that than see you or any other excuse.
I'm sitting here trying to think back to the guys that I was dating 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Hell, I'm pretty sure half of them have killed themselves with drugs and alcohol by now, so I think I'm safe not ever having to do that.
Well, that's the problem I ran into because I was staying at another friend's house, and it was fucking miserable. I was hating. So I was at a bar at like 6 in the morning and going through the mental Rolodex in my phone. I was like, I need to find somebody to hang out with. And of course, everybody's either dead or, sleeping. So she was in a seminar, a safety seminar.
Nice. Because that's what you need to be paying attention to.
Yeah. So, yeah. I can't remember what I was talking about.
You were talking about reconnecting with your wife.
Oh, I was talking about that. So, yeah, and she did agree to meet me, not then at 6 in the morning, which is what I wanted, because
you were bored and needed
want
something.
what I want. I want it now. And she went with me. I went to jam with Ken and Tulane.
Nice.
Yeah, I hadn't seen them in 30 years, and I just went out to their practice spot, and Carrie went with me. So, I was talking about the bands I was in. So I came down here for Steve's thing, and she went with me, and then I moved down here, relocated. And I decided, okay, I'm going to get back into playing, and I'm going to throw myself into it. I bought the top-of-the-line gear, just restocked the arsenal, and I just started hitting bands up. I didn't care if they were looking or not. I just would send them a message, say, you need a guitar player. And Betrayal of Allies was actively looking for a guitar player. So I went and auditioned for them. I got that, and it was a brutal progressive death metal band. And they're kids, man. They're really young, and they were just so phenomenally good. 2 of them actually ended up joining Love Drive, the Scorpions tribute band I was in. So I was in Betrayal, and then I noticed there was a Scorpions tribute band. They were called Blackout at the time. And I just sent them a message. I was like, hey, man, I know that shit. I learned that when I was in 9th grade.
When it first came out.
Yeah, pretty much. But all that stuff, that's how I learned how to play guitar. That solidified it in me. I can't forget any of that stuff, even if I try.
Right.
So I just sent them a message, and they were having some issues with the guitar player they had, so they asked me to come and audition. I got that. And then Arrogant Bastards, I saw a video of them. Dave Bakay, Donnie Matthews, Nicky Perrell, and I can't remember who they had playing guitar, Tommy Lundin. And so I saw this video. I was like, they might need a second guitar player.
Yeah, that looks fun.
Yeah, and so I hit them up, and they said, no, we're good, bro. Nicky got back to me. He's like, no, we're good, bro. He probably thought I was a total arrogant douche. But then, like an hour later, apparently they were having some issues. He hits me back up and says, hey, you still interested? So he sends me a set list, like 10 songs, and I learned all of them. Nailed them. Went out there like 2 nights later. So I got that gig. So I was in...
That's 3 bands now.
Yeah, and then Anfest came up, the very first, it was 2015, I think, 2016. So I played there with Betrayal at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the Scorpions band called Blackout at the time was supposed to play at like 5 on the other stage. So the other guitar player calls me and says he can't make it because it's too long of a drive to Anfest.
Right.
So I fired him.
Right.
Yeah, I fired him. And then ultimately Blackout kind of became my band, which then became Love Drive. And so everybody got replaced, and then I ended up with Rick Cardoza playing drums, and I played with him for like 3.5 years. He was in a lot of different projects with me. He's in Show Me God now. And Cody, the lead singer and lead guitar player in Betrayal, came over as the rhythm player in Love Drive. And Andy Lister, the drummer in Betrayal, came over as the bass player at first in Love Drive. But Andy, little do most people know, is one of the best singers I've ever heard in my life.
Nice.
Oh my God, this dude can shatter concrete. And he can do the Scorpions flawlessly. However, he never sounded like Klausman. And we never really set out to do that.
Right.
Because we were tuned lower, we death metaled it up. They were still...
You made it yours.
Yes. We weren't a tribute, really. We didn't look anything like them. And anyway, I digress. But then we got Sal Berrigan in from Varkin on bass guitar. And so it's me and Rick Cardoza, and he's my age. And then we got these 3 young kids. And that band rolled like a steamroller for 2 years. I mean, we played the Marquee. I mean, Donnie reached out and asked for support for, I think it was Black Sabbath. And a lot of bands threw their name in the ring.
Nice.
Original bands.
Yeah.
And he gave it to us, a cover band.
Nice.
And then Andy couldn't do the gig. He couldn't play the Marquee. Something came up and he couldn't do it. So we were 11th hour, we didn't have a singer.
Oh, Jesus.
So I called Danny Pettit. And we rehearsed one time with him.
I just see, and these are the kinds of things, because I do set up shows now. Those are the kinds of stories that panic me.
It gets better. See, when I fired that guy, then there's an open slot at Anfest. That's not good, man.
No, that's not.
And so I had rehearsed with the Bastards 2 times. And I called up Nikki or Bakai, I can't remember. I was like, hey, man, get down here. Anfest.
Now.
We need to fill this slot. And they did, man. They rolled in. They were still hungover. And God love them. Every one of those dudes, they just poured themselves in there, bleeding booze. And we killed it. It was probably the best set of the day, man. It was awesome.
Oh, my God.
And, 2 rehearsals. We just nailed it. And Deb and Jim were kind of pissed. They were, at first, they're like, oh, what the fuck's going on? But then I was like, look, this happened at the last minute, and once...
And I filled the hole for you.
Yeah.
I couldn't let you have a hole in your show.
Right.
You know?
I certainly wasn't trying to do anything underhanded or deceitful. I was just trying to fill the spot with a quality band. And I did. At the end of the day, everyone was happy, and that was amazing. And the Bastards went on for a while. Love Drive went on forever. Betrayal of Allies kind of fizzled out.
I'm going to have to go check my messenger, my Facebook messenger, because I think I actually reached out to Love Drive a couple months ago.
I think you did, yeah.
And nobody ever responded.
We were going through the violent throes of a breakup.
That explains it.
Yeah, it had been together a long time. And I can be kind of a dick. I mean, I'm the first...
At least you own it.
I can't. Anything else would just be so disingenuous. But yeah, I'm kind of an asshole. But I'm just an asshole to the point where I just, again, music, just take it seriously. And it's awesome. You cannot describe that feeling. Or someone who's never played with a band. It's like trying to explain the color red to a blind guy. They will never know that feeling of 4 or 5 musicians locking together.
I only know it from being the more than casual observer.
Right, but it's like you trying to tell me about childbirth. I can get it that it's painful and yeah, but I will never ever experience that. Someone who doesn't play an instrument will never ever. That's a unique.
And like I said, as the Uber fan,
better than sex. There, I said it.
I have seen bands get up on that stage and be so in tune with each other.
Yeah.
So in step with each other. And it's a miracle to watch. And have such a good time at it. And
cool.
then you see other bands get up there, and they aren't in sync.
Yeah, they have.
And they could play the music precise, and because they're not in sync with each other, it's painful. It's painful to watch.
Yeah, it is.
And that's just me as the non-musician standing in the audience going, oh God, this is worse than a train wreck.
And going back to 30 years ago, those bands I was talking about, nobody phoned it in. Those guys were all dialed in.
Yeah.
All the time. And they set the bar pretty high. You had to be good.
30 years ago, you had to be good. You didn't have all the computers backing you up.
It seems like anybody can just throw a band together, make a phone call, and they're playing. Back then, you kind of had to prove yourself. Now, it doesn't seem to be such the case.
So, let's talk about that a little bit. So, let's compare, because, I'm old enough to remember back then. Let's compare what it takes, or what it took back then versus now to actually get into literally any bar.
Back then, you had to be proficient on your instrument, and you had to look good, and you had to be with 4 or 5 other guys or girls, whatever. They all gelled. There was that chemistry. And so it's a unique combination. It's not that hard to do because you can see it played out every day. There's plenty of really, really good bands out there where they have that chemistry. But I don't know. I don't know what the criteria is now because it doesn't really seem like there is any. Back then, you had to audition for Franco. Well, Franco... No, you did.
Yeah,
to play the weekends, you had to audition.
And I've heard stories about trying to get in on his open mic night where it was months before you could get on that list.
Yeah, Ed and Sully at Edsell's Attic, they flat out tell you suck. You go home practice more. Oh, you stinking up my joint. But no, the bands were good, and you had to prove yourself before they'd let you on stage, and they promoted the shit out of it. And now I honestly don't know. I honestly don't.
So, in your opinion, the music community then versus now?
A lot more cocaine back then.
The 80s were a hell of a 10 years.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, people were definitely more concerned about their looks back then. That was a huge part of it. I mean, not that people aren't attractive or anything now, but it just seemed to be such a focal point.
Getting up on stage was actually an event.
Yeah, and they treated every show like a big rock show.
I remember going to my first show out here.
And now, you see these big stages in some of these clubs where there's a combo amp and a little cocktail kit. It's like, man, let's get some dummy cabinets up there. Treat it like a rock show. People hear with their eyes. They don't want to see some dudes that look like they just crawled out of their mom's basement,
even if they did.
Well, yeah, the musician needs to take it upon themselves that you're there to entertain people. And I see people looking bored or looking at their shoes or just wearing street clothes. I mean, you're the focal point. You're the center of attention. You're the entertainment.
Right.
Entertain.
And I mean, I've heard other musicians comment on that where at least try and look the part.
Yeah.
Don't look like you walked in straight from work.
I'm a welder. I can't wear this to go work.
Right.
No, I get sent home.
Yeah,
it's
because
the same
you've
kind
got
of
to
thing.
have...
It's the same kind of thing. You got to take it seriously. And just because you can shred or whatever, that's just one small part of it. You got to also be able to play with others.
Yeah.
and make music. Not just spew out the correct sequence of notes. Make music.
Right.
So I don't know what the criteria is, because it really doesn't seem like there's any. It's a phone call. Hey, why don't you book my band? All right. It literally seems like that's about it.
I've had, getting into the booking of shows, I know that I have had, because before I started booking, I was out there in the audience. And I was the Uber fan. And I know that there were some people just months ago that their only criteria to book a band was to look at that band's Facebook page and see how many likes they had.
And sometimes not even that.
And oh, you've got a good number of likes, that means that you're going to bring a whole bunch of people in the door.
With zero promotion, it's just going to happen.
Because you've got a whole bunch of likes on your Facebook page. So it seemed, from what some people were telling me, it was more of a popularity contest than an actual music
like actual
contest.
Good bands, as opposed to... Did I say that?
So it's difficult for me, because now when I'm setting up shows, I've got people in the music community that I'm acquaintances with. I have nothing against them, but I can't say I ever want to book them. And they're coming to me going, but you know me. You've known me from day one. Why aren't you giving me a show? And I don't want to be that mean person and say, because your music isn't a standard I want my name attached to.
Yeah, some of that I don't get it. I really don't. Because I don't know if it's just me, but I've asked other people and they hear the same thing. And yeah,
is it because our younger generation is lazy?
Some of them are our age.
Well, I'm thinking the younger generation is lazy and therefore has less expectation. And
there's really no, because I've seen younger musicians just killing it, like those kids in Betrayal.
Yeah.
They weren't. I don't think they're happy where they're at.
Right.
And I think that's good enough for now, and that's fine.
And as long as they're good with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I just have my sights set higher. I want to get to Europe. That's ultimately my goal.
And it's funny. I was talking to a band member of one of the bands that's a part of the group. I was talking to him today about a show coming up in September, and would his band be interested? And he's like, well, I don't know yet, because we play in Europe in September.
Huh.
And I'm like, fuck. How cool is that?
It's really cool.
You're, part of the year you're here home in the United States and you're working a regular job. This person happens to be an attorney. And, so he gets up and goes to work to this very straight-laced, formal 9-to-5 job. And then goes home on a Friday night and goes and plays at the bars. And goes and tours Europe for a month and plays in Europe for a month. Oh my God, how do you stay balanced? How do you not have your head so ego swollen that, I don't know if I ever got that big that I could still hold a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, that would be a problem. But the ego thing, I don't understand that either. I've got friends that are touring and they're successful. It's a job.
Right.
It's
their just
passion.
A job they happen to love.
Yeah, it's a job, but it's what they're passionate about. So from the outside looking in, yes, it's the sole source of income. So that is technically your occupation. Let's call it that.
Right.
Occupation. And it's one that, you certainly, a lot of times it is like work. Especially when it's, anything other than playing.
Right.
And it gets to be a whole lot like work. But it's still work that I choose to do and I love doing. But that's been the problem, is finding people that are dedicated, that want to stick to a game plan. And it almost seems like I've been in a situation where it's gotten that close, self-sabotage would occur.
God, that sucks.
I mean, when I was in Show Me God, they decided to radically change direction midstream, right when we're on the verge of doing cool shit.
Oh, that's gotta be hard.
It was incredibly difficult. I miss playing in that band every day, and it was phenomenal. I mean, Mike James is a fucking genius. I have nothing but respect for that cat. He put the whole thing together. It's all his vision. He wrote the songs. He's the bass player. He did the stage production, stage design, the audio visual, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it is impressive. There's a lot of moving parts, and he pulled it together, and I was incredibly honored to be part of that. I was in that band for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Full masks, dancers, stupid, heavy, industrial, kind of like Rammstein.
Okay.
Great band. Rick Cardozo was in that. Donnie Brexa was the vocalist, and Jareth Paxton. And phenomenal band. I really miss that band.
So before we started the interview, you called yourself a man without a country.
Yeah, I'm a man without a country, Frank. It's from Fletch. I'm currently bandless. I'm going to go in the studio here next week and record my interpretation of Michael Schenker's Into the Arena. And I got a kick-ass bass player and I got a kick-ass drummer. Two drummers, actually. So that's going to be really cool.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with that? Are you building that into a new band, or?
Ideally, yeah. Yeah, but I think these guys, with their prior commitments, it's probably not realistic for me to, think there's any kind of long-term commitment. Little projects like this, side one-offs, are, I would think, not a problem going forward. But any kind of commitment band-wise, because both of them are hired guns.
Right.
They're on tour, they're recording, they're doing a ton of other projects. So you can see I don't really expect that.
Right.
If it happens, I'd be ecstatic. That would be the perfect,
so
foundation for.
So essentially, are you looking for that
Yes.
new band to build?
Yes, I'm looking for solid pro level players.
This is definitely the place to put that word out there.
Exactly. Like I told you in my message, I want to further my agenda. I know it sounds kind of, conspiratorial, like some secret society type. But no, I do want to further my agenda. I need a solid drummer and a solid bass player. And the other pieces can be layered on top of that. And I've been working with a drummer, phenomenal drummer, but I am very, like I said earlier, bag of cats. I generate so much stuff, song ideas, that it gets overwhelming. It gets overwhelming for me, and that's why I reach out to these people and say, you got to help me corral this shit in and rein it in, because I just get lost in the weeds. Too much stuff. And so I need someone who thinks rationally to come in and kind of counter the chaos and focus it. But that being said, it's not a bad problem to have.
No.
I'd rather be generating ideas all the time than not generating ideas all the time. So, and I can rein them in and put them together in songs when I sit down and actually force myself to do it.
You need to start just keeping a notebook.
I record it on my phone, and I record entire sessions 2 hours at a time. So that includes a lot of idiotic nonsense dialogue and obscure historical references and vague political statements. I don't know.
And
But
it's so funny because as you're saying this, all I can picture in my head is Brian Mogul and how he manages to take all of these very different, obscure things and bring them together into an absolute incredible show. Have you ever seen his Videodyssey?
Yeah, I played at Gypsy's one night. Him and Jim was there. Mm-hmm. And they had me get up and I played over some pre-recorded tracks. I think I did. I played Into the Arena.
Yeah.
And Brian's a huge Schenker fan. Me and him got that shared love of Michael Schenker.
Yeah, but I got to sit down and interview him, and listening to him go on about these different things. Now, I'm a person who loves to hear stories, so it never bothers me to listen to somebody ramble on. But he pulls together, like I said, some of the most obscure stuff.
Does he travel the world solving crimes using music theory and
You're not supposed to talk about that. I am so telling Jim on you.
Yeah, well,
I'll
admit to this right now. I am also, most people don't know this. In Europe, I'm known as the Green Listener.
Gonna have to look that up.
I solve crimes.
I just know that
theory and technology.
I just know that Jim Stark said that you're not supposed to mention that stuff out loud.
I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't mention it.
Okay, well, I know at least 1,200
no,
listeners
that sentence I just said did not have any. I didn't mention that. There was nothing mentioned about anything about that ever.
So,
no, really.
What's your next step?
My next step? Get this Into the Arena done. Oh, I'm doing the Malo de Dentro farewell thing for Brett.
You're going to be a part of that?
I was in that band.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was in that band. I was in that band for about a year.
I actually sat down and interviewed Stone and Chris a couple weeks back.
Did he admit to his rampant homosexuality?
It's not out there on the interview, so I really
Sorry,
can't.
Stone.
I can't discuss anything that wasn't
We used
discussed
to get together
openly
and
on the
share
interview.
silly secrets.
Oh God, I can imagine.
It was horrifying.
I can imagine.
We're from the same hometown.
Yeah. So what's next? Malo de Dentro. That's on the 28th. 28th 27th of March.
You're right.
Because I've got another show I've got to do on the 28th.
I thought it was next weekend. No, I'm rehearsing with them next weekend.
Yeah, no, the 27th of March is the Malo de Dentro, and then the 28th is a show that I'm hosting at Tempe Tavern, something metal, and I can't remember the name of it because I didn't create the show name, and Sean Gilbreth is going to shoot me for not knowing the name of the show. Oops.
It'll come to you.
No, it won't, because I didn't. I just know it's something metal, and I'm not the one that created the show name, so it's never stuck in my head. All the bands have stuck in my head because they're phenomenal bands.
Who's playing that?
That is going to be Desert Vikings, Addicted, Versus All, and I can't remember the fourth band now. I have it on my phone. I can look on my calendar and tell you who it is. But I want to say that it's Victims, but don't quote me on that.
Victims.
I love those guys. They're awesome.
I think I've probably played at one time or another, because then I was in Mallow. Let me see. Love Drive was going on this whole time, and then...
Well, that was the show I actually reached out to Love Drive to be a part of.
We would have loved to do it. We would have. I mean, that
Yeah,
That's
you
another
are
band I really,
so never going to live down the fact that you did not respond to me when I was trying to book you for a show.
I couldn't with any validity because the band was in a state of flux, and I didn't want to make a commitment that
I understand, but it's good. It's good to tease you about it.
I know. I got that coming. I really miss that band. I miss those guys. They're my brothers, and we just had a lot of fun. It was really cool. Good, tight band. We all got along. It was awesome. And then Show Me God, we all hated each other. No, we didn't.
Hated each other like brothers, right?
Yeah. Me and Mike butted heads all the time, but at the end of the day, we made great fucking music together. So that was an awesome experience playing with those guys. And they're still plowing forward straight ahead, so I wish them all the success in the world. I really do, man. It's just an honor to be a part of it. So then that kind of, we went our separate ways, and let me see. Okay, then Love Drive kind of was dissolving. So Danny Pettit approached me because he's filled in for Love Drive at the Marquee, and he fucking nailed the Klaus Meine stuff. He does the Zeppelin 4 thing with Nick Sterling, and I can't remember the other guys. But
so let me, because we're digressing and we're running out of time, and I've got some questions.
I don't want to digress.
Yeah, I've got questions because there's some standard questions that the listeners are used to hearing, and they actually look forward to them.
I know this because I am the green listener.
And even if they aren't looking forward to them, there's some of my favorite questions to ask.
You ask away.
I'm really snotty about that. I have certain questions that just have to happen. So,
well then,
since you are a man without a band,
yes,
a man without a country, build me your dream band. Any musician, pick your musicians.
Me, Tommy Aldridge on drums, Barry Sparks on bass, or Kelly Conlon. No, not Kelly Conlon. Too Irish. Barry Sparks on bass, or Peter Ivers on bass. The drummer from Arch Enemy, wouldn't mind having him. The chick from Arch Enemy, I can't remember, not Angela Gasso, I can't remember the new chick's name. Alyssa White. Alyssa Glues White. She's a phenomenal vocalist. Corey Taylor, Slipknot, Stone Sour. Love his vocals. Anders Frieden from In Flames. He's a great frontman. That would be it. I can't think of any keyboard players off the top of my head.
It's your band. You get to have who you want. If that's it, that's
Derek
it.
Sherinian. If I had to have a keyboard player, I'd go with him.
There you go. So, what was the worst show you ever played?
Recently or ever?
Ever. Give me, I want the worst or the worst.
It's got to be the Arizona Event Center. I'm kind of notorious for this. I had a full-blown fucking meltdown on stage. Oh, yeah, it was bad. It was fucking bad. It was just terrible. I was playing with Love Drive and the Bastards, both bands on that bill. Love Drive was not having a good night for whatever reason, and I did not respond. Some of my gear, I just gotten, I think, a new pedal board. Something was brand new at the time, and I still wasn't quite familiar with the signal routing and whatnot. And I plugged something in wrong. And of course, in that moment, none of it was my fault. It was a vast conspiracy of a wide variety of enemies.
The Gremlins got it.
And it was the Chi-Coms. I'm sure they were involved. Probably a small splinter faction of the IRA that was somewhat pissed off at me. ISIS, they were probably involved. I think the KKK, Black Panthers.
Oh my God, they all band together
just
to mess with you.
All inclusive.
Oh my God.
Everybody, even disgraced Boy Scout leaders, somehow were involved in this conspiracy to mess with my fucking equipment. I wasn't happy. I wasn't going to have any of this. I fought my guitar that night.
Oh, man.
And lost. No, everything I fought that night, I lost.
Oh,
it
man.
was, and ask Alex Wood.
Oh.
And Joker. Joker was there. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know Joker.
He's a local sound guy, and he's a singer in, what the fuck's the name of his band? It'll come to me. He's a singer in a real heavy band. And Alex was there, too.
Okay, Alex, you're going to get a copy of this just so you can shout out. So you can totally tell this story from an outsider's point of view.
He's been good, man. He keeps, every time I see him, he'll we have a laugh about it, but yeah, it was bad. And there was
temper tantrums on stage, and
my wife had to grab me by the earlobe and do one of those. Like, yeah, I was a giant 5-year-old. It was just
awesome. So let's flip it around. What was your best show?
Oh, there's been a couple of them, man. There's been a couple. One of the Show Me God shows I think we did at Mind's Eye was just phenomenal.
What made it phenomenal?
The crowd response. And your amp will sound different, even in the same room, on the same settings, everything. Temperature, humidity, the amount of people in there, where I'm standing in relationship to it, the temperature of the amp itself. A million different variables will change how a guitar amp sounds, and a lot of people don't get that. And that applies to every instrument on stage.
Right.
And a drummer is going to be the same way as I am. If something isn't exactly right, it throws kind of a hitch in your get along. And you learn to overcome these things, but then when everything is aligned, all the planets are lined up.
Right. The sun, the moon, the stars, and all the planets are all in that perfect alignment.
That moment, that's cool. And we had one of those. I mean, it was just airtight.
Nice.
Couldn't fuck it up if we tried, and we didn't. It was awesome. My buddy flew down from Denver to fill in as vocalist for Love Drive on New Year's Eve. We were the first band, and we got an encore there. I mean, it was a packed house, and we got an encore, like, first band. That's kind of cool. A couple of the Amfests. The UFO band, we did a show at Cactus Jack's. Every song just fell into place. I was just in the zone.
Nice.
So there's been a few that, and my wife will tell you, I get done playing and I'm just manic.
I'm like that, and I'm only in the crowd. I walk out of the bar and I'm like, yeah.
No, I can't sleep. I can't sleep for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, I'm just wound up. It's like a sugar high, I just get totally manic.
It's
but
that
if it's
energy.
a bad show, then no, not good. Not so manic.
Not so manic. So
But I don't have bad shows.
Let's go to my final favorite question. All-time high place to play. What venue is the pinnacle venue for you?
Main stage, Wacken Open Air Festival, Germany.
That was easy. That came easy, and I have only ever had one other musician that came up with that choice, and that was Matt, who's the drummer for Oddity Paradox.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's his...
Well, he's a critical thinker. He's a sharp dude, if he came up with that answer instantly like I did.
Yeah.
That is that's it, man.
Madison Square Gardens is a pretty typical one.
Yeah, anywhere in the U.S. anymore, I would love to play all those places, but...
Wouldn't turn them down.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But Europe is where, for the kind of music I want to play, like the melodic death metal, the real progressive technical stuff, In Flames, Arch Enemy, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You don't even hear bands like that here.
No, I've got a good friend of mine. She listens to pretty much all of the music that she listens to is Europe bands.
That's all I listen to. I mean, I like Five Finger. That's probably it. Five Finger. Oh, Slipknot, Stone Sour. Those guys are cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything I'm listening to lately is all European.
I'm just not a fan of Slipknot. I tried to listen to them.
It's an acquired taste. It is.
It's
very
I
aggressive.
don't even know what album I got. I was dating a guy, and it was his favorite band. So I'm like, okay,
That's how I got turned on to him. I was dating a guy.
Yeah. Well, you gotta try and match up with your partner.
Yeah.
Maybe
the whole gay thing just kind of fell.
Well, probably because he taught you to like Slipknot.
I never even looked at it that way. I tend to put that whole episode, bury it deep in the back. You know.
I went and bought the CD. I still remember it. It was red, and that's all I remember about it. And I think it said Slipknot in gold on it. And I put it in, and I took my niece with me because she was that right age to know that music. And so she's the one that picked out, yeah, you want this one, Auntie. This is the one you want to get. Along with a Disturbed CD, which I still have, and I still love Disturbed.
She should have turned you on to King Diamond.
I've heard of that band.
Oh.
But, yeah, I put the Slipknot in, and literally the only words I could recognize of what was coming out of his mouth was, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he could be absolutely cussing me out, and I would never know it, because all I can understand of what he's saying is, fuck you. I agree. It's very difficult when you first hear that kind of singing style. I didn't like it forever. I resisted it. I called it Cookie Monster, and that's what everybody calls it now. But yeah.
I really hated it. I thought it was ridiculous. But then it's more instrumental. They use it more like an instrument than a melodic. It's not so much singing as it's percussive.
Yeah, for me, the first part of a song I connect to is the lyrics because it's the story that I'm connecting with.
Yeah, what if there's no singer?
I actually don't listen to any bands that don't have a singer.
But see, like symphonies, they still tell a story.
But notice I did say the first thing I connect with is the lyrics. The second thing I connect with is the guitar players.
As you should.
And then it's the drummer.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the bass player isn't generally connected with before the drummer. The bass player is generally... And it's really
You're
sad.
You're not alone.
I have friends that are bass players. You know, John Duff is a sweetheart of a man. I adore that man. He is my woo-saw. But yeah, no, I connected with him as a person long before I connected with him as a bass player.
Good bass players are a valuable commodity, man. It's a skill. I mean, I can't transfer my skill. Every time I play bass, drummers throw sticks at me because I play it like a guitar. And you can't do that. It's more an extension of the drums. It's the melodic bridge between the pulse.
So that's why
the
bass
melody.
players and drummers are so tight.
Yeah, they should be locked in. You should be able to smack one and the other feels it.
Okay, good to know, because, I have bass players in my world, absolutely. I've got, John Duff, I've got Art Long. Art Long, that man that's my cousin It.
Good bass player, you'll see the bass drum and the flat locking in.
Yeah.
They're locked in. They're playing in the pocket then.
I've heard that terminology. I learned these terminologies from the musicians, and then I get to say them again in interviews and stuff, and I sound like I actually know what the hell I'm doing.
I'll give you a bunch right now. When you're starting a song, it's from the edge.
Okay.
And real dissonant chords are called headache chords.
I can understand why.
And like the blues note, the flat 5, it's sour.
And then there is the key of E, which is Johnny Tsunami's key. And that is basically the sad note. It is in the key of E.
E is E major. E major is happy. E minor is sad.
I just know the key of E. Johnny Tsunami sings in the key of E.
Yeah, but see, if you say the key of E, that means major. Key of E.
Okay.
So if you say E minor,
Oh, maybe I misunderstood.
Someone will disagree with that, but if you just say E to me, I think E major. If you say E minor, then I know to play E minor.
Chris of Malo de Dentra, I never pronounce the band's name right. They actually have sent me the pronunciation of it because I always mess it up.
I used to call it the Bad Teeth Band.
Chris taught me the brown note. Or is it, no, the brown tone. Is it the brown note or the brown tone?
Brown note is something different.
No. He brought it up and I had to go research it, so I actually now know what it is.
Brown sound is that kind of Van Halen tone from...
The whole theory behind there's that one key that you can play that, I got to learn that. So I have a lot of fun interviewing you guys. I do want to thank you for coming out tonight. This has been phenomenal to sit down and bullshit with you and get some of these stories from you. I love that storytelling time. And I love getting to see behind the scenes, getting to know you musicians, who you are as people. And guys out there listening, I hope you've enjoyed this evening as much as I have. I thank you for listening in with us. And I thank you for coming out tonight and sharing the couple of hours of your time with me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, no problem.
Not easy. Right?
Oh, come on now. It's not that bad. Not that bad at all. You've got great stories to tell.
No, thank you. You're kind.
Thank you guys for joining us on The Beat Goes On, and have a great night.